Hello and welcome to today's episode of Market Talk. We're delighted to be joined by Philip Shelley, Soft FM Operational Manager for NHSI and a past chair of the Hospital Caterers Association, as well as Steve Buckmaster, Director of Sales at Brita Professional UK. Welcome to you both. Good to see you.
Morning.
After yesterday's vaccine news, this is quite an interesting time at the moment, and certainly things seem to be taking a positive sort of upturn since the last market talk that we did. So it's good to have you both here. Phil, we'll start with you. You've been involved in a very, very interesting and influential piece of work around hospital food and the future of hospital kitchens. The Hospital Food Review, which I understand that you chaired. The results of that were announced and published last week. But I understand this was actually a body of work that was completed before the pandemic started.
Yeah, thanks for the welcome, Andrew. Yeah, as you would anticipate, anything within a timeline at the moment is difficult to manage. We were prepared to release the independent report in March, but unfortunately the right decision was made to actually stand things down. And we've had a few questions as well now about why now, and it's interesting to release a report, a bit like the Henry Dimbleby National Food Strategy. We felt now that actually food, nutrition, hydration, well-being for staff as well is particularly topical during the COVID process. And we felt that now was a good time to get a message out around NHS healthcare for food, but also the way we should be looking after our teams.
Sure, and with that piece of work, there was obviously a number of key conclusions that were kind of drawn from that, particularly around nutrition, menus, the way that patients and staff need to be fed. What for you was one of the most significant things to come from it, would you say?
Well, on the site visits that took place, and we did over 30 trusts throughout England. We know that one size certainly does not fit all. There was definitely a preconceived idea in the beginning that it had to be one thing, but what we saw were lots of fantastic hospitals doing great work, real exemplar sites throughout England, and also some sites that were struggling, and often the ones that were struggling had the same type of food service as the exemplar site. So we're thinking, well, there's something that's not quite right. Is it the funding? Is it the skills? Is it the equipment? And I think there's a blend of all those things. So that's why we formed the 8 recommendations. There's also a chief exec checklist, because we want chief execs to be closer to food and understand, where do they get things right and where are the challenges. So at least they can measure where they are. And obviously going forward, we want to support those trusts to get them to a point where they feel much happier about their services.
Sure, okay.
Great stuff, Phil. Just on the equipment side of things then, I know there was like a couple of main recommendations that came out of the report, but can you just go through those for our viewers?
Yeah, certainly. There were many hospitals that we visited that had issues structurally. They were in very old buildings, from the 1940s through until 1960s. So therefore, there is structural changes that need to happen. So we have definitely got some bidding available that we think for areas that need to rethink how they do it. But I think the main challenges for hospital catering were about bids that they put in over the last sort of 5 to 10 years for equipment that haven't been funded. And we think that even though there is a cost to everything, we think that's quite a quick win. There is so much equipment out there now that you can cook so differently. It's much more thinking about energy that you use and actually keeping the quality of food. So we really believe that there's a great opportunity to change the way that trusts actually cook food, how they serve food. And also at this point in time, I hope it gives suppliers that opportunity to think, we've got an opportunity here to make a real difference, to work with hospital sites in improving the equipment and the structure of those builds.
Great stuff. And Steve, I'll just bring you into the conversation here because Brita itself has produced a report recently. So it's kind of two reports here that we're discussing. It's Beat the Breakdown, I believe. So can you just give some details about how that came about and what the main findings were?
Sure. So within Brita, we tend to do research 3 or 4 times a year. And the objective is to really focus on some hot topics at the time. We release those on different platforms so that operators can have a view, and we can maybe lead them into a way that they could counter an argument or perhaps put a solution in place. And the hot topic at the moment is repair, don't replace. I challenge that one a bit, to be honest, because that sounds like you're going to let something break down and then repair it. So certainly my philosophy on that is, well, I think we should be doing more prevention rather than repairing, and certainly not replacing, because what we found out, we did the research, and it was really understanding how people were looking at their business and running it sustainably. So we asked them a few questions, and some of the highlights were that we know capital investment is going to be very much reduced in the coming years. And over half, I guess if we ask people today, this was done about a month ago, probably half now would say that they're going to struggle if they need to invest in new equipment. And what was astounding was we found that 1 in 4 were already working with equipment that needs repair. So this is not a new phenomenon that people have been avoiding, maybe trying to save costs. And I think a few of the people we spoke to realised that maintenance plays a real crucial part in the circular economy, because it's all about reducing waste and supporting continuous use of resources or the assets. So making sure we get the best out of what we've got. And that's sinking in now. I think businesses are looking at it from not only a cost perspective, but a sustainability of their business and making sure they're fit for the future. Those were key headlines out of our research.
And I think, Steve, one of the things that came out as well was that there was a line in there that 30% of kitchen operators are much more cautious about costs since the pandemic, and that obviously has a knock-on effect for kind of repair and maintenance as well. You know, if you take a figure like that, 30%, would you say that's quite different than what you would have seen previously?
Yeah, again, there's this realisation, isn't it? And I think all operators are looking at how they can get the customers through the door or serve the patients and the support staff, but how they can do it more efficiently, as Phil was saying with maybe equipment, certainly how they can do it more productively. What we found is that if your equipment isn't working, you're not productive and you're not efficient. No matter if it's the latest technology you might have, that preventative maintenance is so key. So yes, we probably in the past we've had to persuade people it was a good idea to invest in maintenance. I think they're getting the point now. I think it's raising to the top, because cutting costs on maintenance is short term. Quick drive to the bottom line for sure. Longer term though, you're setting yourself up to fail, I believe.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, and Phil, you know, maintenance, I'm guessing this is something that's been vital for you over the years, given your background in the facility side. How you know, how well adopted are the practices in terms of maintenance and preventative maintenance in the kind of healthcare kitchen sector, would you say?
Steve makes a great point around, you know, our sort of our service contracts and our equipment management. I think what we're trying to look at is trust need to start thinking ahead about their model of delivery. So yes, keep a close management of what you've currently got right now, but as you plan for the future, is your delivery going to be different? And therefore you need to be thinking about not only how you look after your current equipment, but what are you purchasing for the future? You know, we've seen episodes where people have just continually replaced what they've got, and their model of delivery then changes, which means they've got to have a massive turnaround of what they've already purchased. So we need to think ahead, and I hope that the panel going forward through the review can support that work that takes place to think in depth about what are the right models for the area they work in, for the amount of people they're serving, for how many hospitals they're serving. We've got a lot of experts out there, and we hope we can call upon them to sort of support our decision making.
Absolutely. And again, on the kind of repair versus replace question, obviously energy efficiency is a massive topic. If operators say, okay, we're literally just going to keep on repairing, is that then to the detriment of efficiency, because new equipment can be much more efficient? So how do you think that hospital caterers can square that circle?
They need to understand the life cycle, don't they? And think, well, when they purchase equipment, you know, what is the real life of that equipment, and where are they going to be in 5 and 10 years time? So at least if they're purchasing something for the long term, they have a real understanding of the cost benefits, either through energy or through other means. So yeah, I think we've lost something where we've lost catering managers, probably. You know, if you look across healthcare, there are lots of managers now that actually manage catering as part of a portfolio rather than only catering. But one of the big benefits of that has been that it's often a facilities manager that has a portfolio catering, that has a closer link with procurement and a closer understanding of the estates management team as well. So we have to try and develop that whoever is managing the catering team, they need to have an understanding of what they're purchasing, a close link to the supply network, as well as having that link into their own procurement team.
Absolutely, and that seems like a good point to bring Steve back into it, because obviously Brita are our major supplier. So what have been the key trends for Brita at the moment, and how have you been working with both operators and dealers to kind of help them through this crazy period?
Sure. So the impact has been quite big. We've got 3 divisions within Brita. First of all, everywhere we work, from a commercial team and a support team in 3 offices around the UK, we've basically shut the offices and everybody's working from home, and we've resourced them to do that from a support services point of view. But we're also thinking now about their mental well-being as well, and making sure that that's being addressed, as well as have they got the right piece of equipment. But we have 3 income streams, 3 divisions. My division, which is the professional filter division. So I work with manufacturers and people that put equipment, coffee machines, combi ovens, into food service operations. We're very reliant on HoReCa. So, hey, like a lot of people this year, my revenue is down versus 2019. Second division is Brita Dispenser division. It's one that we have hot taps on counters. They can provide hot water, sparkling and still cold water. And they also provide the rebottling plants to make sure we can reduce single-use plastics and improve clients' CO2 footprint. That's very corporate-led, a lot in the offices. Again, as we've been asked to work from home, that's been impacted as a division within Brita. However, there's some great news. We're really proud to say that our retail division has had its best year ever, because consumers are changing the way they drink water. If you imagine we're working from home now, and when we look at our plastic bins, when we put wrappers and packaging around, we've also looked at all that single-use plastic we're using. In particular, Brita, we've encountered a single-use bottled water for quite some time. So consumers have been going, and great news, going buying jugs and cartridges that they can use to produce filtered water at home to replace the single use. Another trend that's happening is that we're missing that visit to our favourite coffee shop on the high street now. But we want to get that same cup of coffee, so we're trying to produce it at home. So we're starting to invest in better and more coffee machines to work at home in our offices. What that means, though, is that consumers have also noticed if they have a better quality of water to start with, that water quality will help their coffee at home. And they'll try and get close to that quality they've been used to. So our 3 divisions, yes, we've been affected, and COVID has not been great for anybody. But it's been great to see how consumers are changing their mindset now and thinking about different ways they can support the environment. Doing that sustainable thing at home as well as at work.
Yeah, sure. And Steve, obviously the interesting aspect about your business is there's this strong kind of consumable and replenishment aspect to it because of filters being replacing and cartridges and so on. Do you therefore expect that once the market kind of reopens fully again, you know, your business will almost pick up from where it left off before the pandemic, or does it not necessarily work like that?
I think that with the new less capital investment going into the business, then maybe my new sales will reduce. However, prevent, don't repair, don't replace should drive energy and should drive thoughts into, well, how do I do that? How do I prevent my equipment breaking down? So my expectation is that lots of education, lots of knowledge, spreading the word, the right thing to do. I had a quick rundown of all the equipment that might be one of Phil's operations. Back of house, dishwashers, glass washers. In the kitchens, combi ovens, steamers, pasta cookers. Looking at hospitality, coffee bulk brewers, hot water boilers, ice machines. Front of house, coffee machines, bean to cup or traditional, warm water boilers. I mean, they've all got one thing in common. They all need suitable water to make sure they can deliver that end product, whether it's being clean dishes, great tasting food, great tasting coffee. They're going to need water treatment maintained, which will then generate a recycling need. And you're quite right, Andrew, that we work with our clients to make sure that used filter cartridges are returned. We look at ways of recycling different parts of that cartridge. So we join that circular environment, if you like, to make sure that we are not only from a business point of view ourselves, and I think that customers are asking us, what can we do as suppliers to support our operators, like Phil, through the supply chain? It's really important, I think, to look at not only from sustainability in recycling, sustainability in extending the life of equipment, so you feel your balance sheet looks good if you don't have to write things off too early and buy new kit. I mentioned that mental or well-being. Some research we did on another toolkit recently demonstrated that one of the key reasons for stress in a kitchen was equipment that didn't work. Stress is then relayed on to customer and customer service. Stress leads to sickness, turnover of staff. But there's another reason why preventative maintenance is a good idea. We're looking at the whole concept of a business and how it can actually operate. Within Brita, we're looking at all our offices to be as green and efficient as possible. Manufacturing plants I mentioned in Bicester, the one that's so busy now because we manufacture the small cartridges for the high street, is now 100% green energy. We're being challenged, how sustainable are we? And then what can we do for people like Phil and his colleagues to help them be sustainable? Maintain it, don't replace it, and have a recycling process to make sure the circular economy is completed.
Yeah, sure. Great message. Phil, just to bring you back in again, one of the observations that I had from the hospital food review that was published was the focus kind of on technology now, particularly around kind of the ordering of food and digital menus and all of these kind of things. Do you think there will be now a joined up approach from the kind of the technology and the digital side to the actual kitchen and the back of house side? You know, are we looking at two different supply chains here, or do you see sort of much more unity happening now between those two areas, the sort of catering side and then technology?
Well, as Steve says, we've had challenging times, but I think what it has helped us to do is adapt a lot quicker. And I know the NHS culture sometimes is a little bit safe. You know, you stick to what you've done for a long period of time. And I think we are looking for different ways of doing things. Some time ago, we moved to a digital system. There was a cost of around £30,000 to put that system in across an acute site. The food saving for the year was £120,000. You know, so there is a real benefit to actually invest in technology to support what you're doing, not to take the place of, but to support in the way of communicating to patients, to actually check on an auditing point of view. So things like you're checking your allergies and special diets. You can also pick up things like temperatures of foods. And of course, importantly, what you can do is reduce your waste. If we can bring our food ordering as close to the point of service as possible for the patient, you know, you don't, if you want to go out for a meal tomorrow night, you want to choose your meal when you're at the table. You don't want to choose it in advance. We should be in that scenario here for our patients. So we feel that digital has a part to play. We know that the government is very strong around digital and therefore is happy to support you know, the possible financial implications around that. So yeah, I mean, there will be a bidding process for us to set up around the review, and we believe that digital will play an important role in that.
Great stuff, Phil. And just picking up on what you said about food waste and the threads of the sustainability and the circular economy altogether, another kind of recommendation from the review was to do with food waste and food waste management. Is that something that you feel hospitals have got right so far, or how can they improve their food waste management processes?
It's very sporadic, Claire, and I think the reason for that is that we have probably sent out blurred messages about how it can happen. You know, for example, should it be weighed? Should it be costed? Well, in theory, it should be all of that. We should be able to understand when you serve one ward with 30 patients in, how much of that food is getting to the patient in as best quality as possible, how much food is either being left on the trolley or left on the plate. You know, we need to know what our patients are eating, and as importantly, what are they not eating, and what's the reason for that? Is it because they're on medication? You know, they've had a real change in their physical and their mental health while they've been in bed, or is it because the food is not of the right quality? So it gives us a story, doesn't it? And we need to understand the story from each hospital and from each trust. What we are doing is working with RAP and with the Hospital Catering Association about bringing a consistent template so everybody can actually link into that, so we can start to measure across the country, what are people doing well, what are their challenges, and how can we help them.
Excellent. And do you think that there's something that equipment suppliers can do to help you in that regard, especially with food waste disposal?
No, absolutely. You know, it's not just about measuring, but it is also about the way that we dispose of waste. And there are several companies that are out there that do a fantastic job about sharing with them. There are different ways of doing things, and there are also supportive ways of, you know, should it be leasing, should it be capital, where should it be on site, should it be one machine, should it be 4 or 5 smaller ones around the site to support that sort of distribution effort. So yeah, I would say to sort of healthcare caterers out there, talk to suppliers, understand what brings the biggest benefit to your hospital site, and one, it will reduce waste, it will reduce things like manual handling and the carrying of waste around, but importantly, it's the right thing to do. It's got a sustainable and environmental message around the way we manage waste.
Sure. We're just probably getting close to time now, so we'll finish with one question each. And Steve, I'll start with you. Looking ahead now towards 2021, what would you say is going to be the big focus for Brita Professional, you know, coming into next year?
Prevent, don't repair, don't replace.
Okay, nice and succinct. Excellent. And Phil, to finish with you, one thing we haven't touched upon, but which is probably quite important to do, is really just kind of reflecting on all of the work that many of your colleagues in NH kitchens throughout the land have been doing, you know, since the start of this pandemic. I can only imagine that they've been under tremendous pressure, and they've had to really you know, operate under circumstances that they've never encountered before. I just thought perhaps you could finish by giving us a word on that situation.
Yeah, sometimes we talked earlier on, didn't we, about back of house and front of house. Healthcare catering can often be seen as back of house, but what they have tried to do is to get to ward level, to talk to dietitians, talk to nurses, and where necessary, talk to patients, be front of house. show that you're proud of what you do. They have worked extremely hard. I think we've received a lot of praise across the country and across the media for what the NHS have done. We're extremely proud. But what I would say for the future is, well, Andrew, is we've got to be brave. Be brave to step out of our comfort zone and don't do what you've always done, but look ahead, listen. If people are offering advice, listen to it, heed it, and make a decision process based on the evidence. It's the right thing to do. You know, we're in an NHS that we're very proud of, and we want it to stay like that for the future.
Yeah, certainly. Well, great message to end on. Thank you both for joining us today. Really great to hear your thoughts on the market, and obviously best of luck moving forward. And to everybody else, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with another edition of Market Talk.